joined by Johanna-Mai Riismaa, who is the CEO of Zelos.
Thank you.
You've been a volunteer coordinator for many years. What does that entail, and what are some of the organizations and festivals and activities that you've been involved with?
I started with a small festival, a film festival that over 15 years grew into a huge A-class festival. This is a Black Night film festival in Estonia. And by now this has over 500 volunteers, so it's a pretty big team. And what's special about it is the festival is mostly volunteer run. So all the important stuff is done by volunteers. I've also organized large sports championships, so a lot of orienteering, also hundreds and hundreds of volunteers involved. And on top of that, conferences, seminars, international events, and stuff like that.
All right, so let me ask you for kind of the top couple of things around managing volunteers. When you're dealing with potentially hundreds, maybe even thousands, I don't know, what are some of the biggest challenges of organizing these kind of disparate volunteers that are there for different reasons, but really, it's difficult to manage them because they're really not salaried employees?
I think it's important to understand why people volunteer, what is their motivation, and how we can nurture this motivation. And when you understand the reasons why they come to help and why they want to help, it becomes much more easier. Another thing that is good to understand, that there is no species of a volunteer. It's not a type of a human who would want to volunteer anywhere. There are people who want to volunteer for your cause. So if you find the right people, if you understand why they are with you, then the last thing I think that's important to do is give them a really easy way to contribute, so that there's no like hurdles or a lot of like organizational paperwork, bureaucracy in between coming in, wanting to help, and actually getting to, doing things. So if that is an easy process, then it's not that hard to get hundreds of people on the same goal and actually achieving very big things together.
So one of the things that you say that you're an expert is around team motivation. So talk to me specifically around that. So one example you gave was around music festival. Another one was around sports venue. So clearly they care about music, they care about the sports event, but how do you then harness that and get them motivated individually, but more collectively so that you achieve your end results?
It's both individual and teamwork to feel engaged in what we're doing. So it's very normal for any human being to want to be included, to feel belonging into this group. And it starts with the personal motivation. For example, if it's a music festival, I really like music. I want to contribute to the industry. Maybe I want to just, hang out with the right people. Maybe I'm specifically impressed by this one group. So that's a personal motivation. And then when there's a lot of people, 100, 500 people who have this personal motivation, this team motivation needs to join these efforts. So it's important that every part of this team understands what their contribution is. So again, the clarity of like, what am I doing? Why am I here? Do I have an easy access to the tasks that are expected of me? As opposed to we're just all hanging out and nobody knows what we're doing. So having the clarity, and also the clarity about the results, that, you as a person, you come in, you do these things, you contribute, and there are actual results to you doing those things. And we, all 500 of us, as we all do our personal goals, this is what we collectively achieve. So in a way, it's a lot about the data that you can, log from these activities and then present back. You really need to report back to your teams like, guys, this is what we have achieved. This is what we're heading towards. And also on the personal level of, there will be some people who do more, and it's okay to, recognize that, there's these people who actually did more and they are getting the recognition. Everyone was really good, but there needs to be a motivation to become better. So I guess it's mostly about very clear communication about expectations, the data that happens, and then the results, what we have achieved.
Okay, so on those points, how does your company, Zelos, codifies exactly those things? The notion of clarity. What are your tasks? What are the objectives? Who's involved? Who's contributing on what level? And then the specific correlation back to the end result that the individual contributed to.
Okay, Zelos has been around for a couple of years, and we are making software for large teams of volunteers. So essentially it's crowd engagement. And what I've seen as a really functional way of engaging people is this, clarity of data. However, people rarely want to, do data input. So this is a very important problem with crowd communication. Nobody wants to log their hours. This is a tedious work that okay, I've done something, I achieved something. Oh, I have to do paperwork. That's like terrible. I don't want to do that. I forget about it, and data doesn't happen. This is something that I think software can solve for us. So to capture the data more organically about when things are getting done. So Zelos is a very task-oriented software. Let me phrase it this way. So it's not about logging the process of hours and results. It's about what needs to get done. It's a software solution that you can sign up for, bring your team in, and then give out these assignments, give out these tasks to a huge team of volunteers or whoever is participating. And whenever they start picking up these things and achieving these goals, it automatically gets logged on the way, so you don't have to do it afterwards. And I think this data is super valuable for both motivating on the go, because you will see as we process that you can have like a leaderboard. These are the most active people. You can have a project summary. It's like, okay, this much we have achieved of our big goals. So having this kind of actively visible to the whole team all the time and having the results or the data log automatically, this really upgrades the team performance and the general motivation.
Now, when it comes to task management, there are a lot of task software that are out there, and SaaS-based apps such as Monday.com and Basecamp and a whole host of these things. And one of the things that I'm listening and I'm trying to understand the motivation, right? Because task is one thing, completion is one thing, leaderboard is one thing, but how do you actually codify the motivation into this so that people feel like, yes, that's why I signed up, that's why I'm helping, and that's why I'm going to follow through with this?
Okay, I think there needs to be a clear difference between employee software, which is most of the task management stuff is for your team in the office, for your company, people who have a contract with you. And this is a really different dynamic from volunteer teams, where in a way the problem isn't as much as you're having to motivate people. So you have a set of people who are employed and you need to motivate them, but it's rather that people come in with a lot of motivation. Why did they come to you? Why did they join the team? They really want to help. The motivation is super high, and the problem is you can't drop it. You can't neglect their willingness to help, and you really need to support it with the clarity of those who are highly motivated. They are able to help and support the rest of the team with this motivation as well. So in a way, it's slightly opposite approach for this grassroots and community engagement things than it is for people who just originally were motivated either by the company brand, by the salary, or whatever these more common things are in an employment contract. And I'm not saying that employed people don't come in with a high motivation. Of course they are. But I think the problems in these two teams are slightly different.
Yeah, that's a really great point. Is that again, there's a lot of different structures, right? So volunteers by nature are not getting compensated in the traditional remuneration, and the fact that their level of motivation is actually very high, at least at the onset when they're coming into a nonprofit or a cause. So it's really around organization and trying to get them quickly plugged in, because I think that's something that you mentioned is reducing friction. So so let's talk about something very concrete. So as of the time of this recording, which is early April, we are very much in kind of worldwide quarantine because of COVID-19. How does COVID help, which I believe is something that you guys have launched? How is that helping? How is that rallying people, especially when, given the fact that people can't mobilize in a physical context?
COVID help is a concept that we brought to life a few weeks ago. So we were participating at a local hackathon, trying to find solutions to, well, solutions and to ease the crisis. And one of the big issues that came up in the ideation phase was, how do we mobilize people, or like regular civilians, essentially volunteers, to do things that make sense and give them access to helping. And as our software is designed to do that, to quickly and easily allow people to help out, we launched a pilot project here in Estonia, which is essentially a call center where people at risk can call in and say, I need my groceries delivered by my neighbor, by a volunteer, someone nearby, because I cannot leave my house. And this was, I think the biggest success about that was the volunteer facing side, because the app is an easy download. The target audience, we want young, healthy people to do the grocery deliveries, those who are less at risk, those who are still able to go around with safety precautions. So these people were really active at picking up the app. They saw it as like a really easy access to helping, because everybody wanted to help. So we got thousands of people just signing up saying, hi, I want to help my neighbor. I want to do something about this crisis. So the motivation was super high, and everyone was just trying to find an easy access to helping. And this project is still ongoing. There's these thousands of volunteers kind of waiting for an opportunity to do the delivery. So there's way less deliveries still than, there are volunteers. So whenever someone calls in and says, hey, can someone help me? It's like a couple of minutes and someone's already like, yeah, I'll give you a call. We're going to do this for you. The same project was picked up a week later in Latvia, essentially for the same reason. They wanted to mobilize civilians to help the crisis. And now it's been going around. So we're setting up Hungary. So also civilian engagement to do different things. We are speaking with teams in different countries, both for the very everyday grocery delivery type of a thing, but also mental health hotline. It's the same thing. You need to quickly match someone who needs help from a large pool of assistants. So who's available right now, who can contribute their time. So this crowdsourcing for help, it seems to be a really, really important solution for the world that we live in now.
Very interesting. It sounds like geographically you guys are focused on Eastern Europe, European countries. Are you guys looking to roll out COVID help and some of the other programs outside of Eastern Europe?
Oh, we're not picky about the locations at all. It's a solution that works. We don't have restrictions, because it's a software solution. It's SaaS, so you can set up wherever you need to set up. You can either use the generic app that's available in most markets, or you can set up a custom solution, because our team does white label branding. So if you want to have your own branded app for doing all of this, it's also possible. So now we're not limiting our markets. It's more about finding who needs this. Where there is a strong team on location who really wants to solve the problem, then we can provide the software.
And any advice for organizations that are looking to help, whether it's COVID ID or mental health or any of that sort, but are concerned about some of the legal ramifications? So the liability around, hey, if some of the volunteers get sick, or if the volunteers are advising on mental health related issues, they're not properly licensed. As an agnostic software play, how do you kind of steer some of those legal aspects for your clients?
Well, volunteering is always, it's not always regulated by contract in the way that you would regulate your employees. Most organizations who already engage volunteers, they have these processes thought out. Either you do a background check, you require some licensing. I mean, essentially, as I said, there is no standard volunteer. Everyone can be a volunteer. You can have really professional people just give their services pro bono, and that is volunteering. You can have professional level mentorship as volunteering. But I think this is something for each organization to think through, is like, what kind of background checks do you need? How much regulation is necessary? If we're in a time of quick crisis, is there some processes that you can ease just for the sake of access, so that you can start it quicker? And what is the possible consequences of this? Personally, I'd say, see the legislation in your country, in your area.
What are your plans in terms of working with companies like Meetup or just other types of nonprofit or grassroots organizations, so that you guys become kind of the dominant platform for those types of organizations?
I think our current goal is pretty targeted into this crowd engagement. So if you have a thing, it could be crisis, it could be a festival, it could be, this pandemic is not the only disaster that can happen and will happen over the upcoming years. So if we're looking at quick civilian engagement to help with something, then this is what we're good at. So getting a lot of people together and really functionally, it's like, okay, guys, this is what we need to get done, and help and support with this process. So I think it's a pretty, in a way, a niche function, but we want to be really good at this niche function, how to make large teams quickly and easily work together in a very short time. With the COVID help concept, we're really pressing for the setup is, so like in 48 hours from your first idea, okay, we need to do something, 48 hours later, you already have like volunteers on the platform and, doing stuff.
Okay, so on that note, how can people get a hold of or Zelos, or figure out how to use that for their organization or their cause?
Come to our website. Our website is getzelos.com. So currently we have a whole special section for the COVID help concept, but there are case studies for other uses as well.
All right, so today I've been joined by Johanna-Mai Riismaa, who is the CEO of Zelos. Thanks for joining today.
Thank you.